Well, hello there, wrestling fans. This is the Wrestling Fans Insight. I'm John Hoppy, your host, and with me, Brian the Hype Ballard. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. You're not going to do your nickname Triple Hoppy?
No, because that'd be awkward and weird. I'm already awkward enough in person. Probably awkward when I release these podcasts. There's no need to make it worse.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Brian, it's been a couple of weeks. How have you been, my friend?
I'm good. We're finally WrestleMania season's kicking in. We are finally getting the card developing, which is cool. But we're also getting some other wrestling, right? We're getting a little bit of AEW action. It is Wednesday Dynamite night. So, we're hopefully getting into a little bit of that tonight. And, NXT just had a big pay-per-view too, I'm hearing. So we're going to get into that as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're actually recording this on AEW Dynamite night. This will be you'll be watching this right now here on Saturday morning, afternoon, wherever you are. So we're not going to be doing a Sunday episode this week, but we will be releasing another episode the following week. We will more than likely be on Friday night, and we're going to be discussing nothing but the WrestleMania card, which it's already been revealed as far as the matches and everything. Brian, I kind of find that a little weird because now you kind of see how TKO does their match lineups for their UFC pay-per-views. I kind of feel like that's what they did with the 2-night WrestleMania card this year.
Yeah, and they just I feel like this last Monday night, they just started throwing matches at us, right? They've slowly, and all of a sudden they just kind of said, okay, and by the way, we're going to throw this match. And then now they had the GM out there throwing matches together. And apparently you can be a celebrity at a show, right? As Carlos said in one of our chats, and you can just get thrown into a match, right? So according to storyline, even though you don't agree, right? And so now you have the Vision, including I Show Speed in a match as well. So I do feel like it is a WrestleMania celebrity edition this year. So we have a celebrity in every match pretty much, I think. So, and I think that's, kind of the corporate synergy we're getting this year at WrestleMania. So,
yeah, not to knock WWE and WrestleMania, they've always had celebrities every year. It's just to a certain extent. I just feel like anymore, it's just seems like as the years progress, it gets a little more saturated. And sometimes I think that can be a bad thing too. I mean, we saw this during, I guess you can say the second run of DX with Shawn Michaels and Hunter, when, all these celebrities were being the guest hosts of Raw. And it showed that some of them don't follow the product. I mean, we'll use Jeremy Piven as the big example because I think he's a douchebag anyways. It calls SummerSlam Summerfest, and you can, yeah. I loved when Shawn Michaels just called it out. I think it was either the Raw the week after or 2 weeks after. It just made me laugh because, you knew that was a dig. Like, quit bringing people in that don't follow our product. It makes no sense.
Yep. And then I heard that Carmelo Anthony's WrestleMania celebrity, or Carmelo Anthony, I'm thinking basketball. Carmelo Hayes, WrestleMania celebrity. See, I'm messing up, even names, right? Carmelo Hayes is WrestleMania celebrity. He was kind of revolting back on the fans for complaining about his involvement in Mania. And his argument was, well, don't ruin my WrestleMania moment. And I'm thinking, WrestleMania moment, what have you done for the company? Like what have you done to earn WrestleMania, a WrestleMania moment, right? Because again, people that say WrestleMania moment typically have been on the road for years. They've grinded in high school gyms or went through the NXT program at least. and so I think it's a little, kind of funny that they're saying, well, this is my WrestleMania moment and I have the right to this. And I'm like, is that what WrestleMania is now? We have rights to it because we are known around the world. I don't know. You guys decide. But
yeah, honestly, it's kind of gone away from the way WrestleMania was originally built. And I feel like we've gone away from that, and we'll discuss this a little bit later. in our first segment here as we're going through. But yeah, it's just because you're famous and you're there at the event doesn't mean you're always going to have something, or doesn't mean you should always be involved either. What's that saying? Less is more.
Yeah. Well, and then the other half is too, John. I think it's they love when they can cross pollinate, right? So if I can get more eyes on the product that are not wrestling tradition, that's what they view as the WrestleMania season. And if that even gets more eyes on the product that sells tickets, that's, we all understand that's what we're trying to do here, right? So I get what they're trying to attempt, but, for us traditional fans and that are here, 24/7, 300 some days a year watching it, right? We kind of tend to be protective of that because we love it so much. And we say, well, wait a minute, don't yuck our yum. Right. So, and I know we don't mind people coming in the sandbox to play a little bit, but we're also like, well, wait a minute, this is our WrestleMania. So.
Yeah. And speaking of WrestleMania, Brian, this week on Raw, I think the territory now between the talent and the outsiders are kind of getting more in place. And for those of you who watched Monday Night Raw this past week, where I'm kind of headed to. CM Punk with a famous pipe bomb. He was definitely, I think, in a way, voicing some frustration because I think even he's speaking up for a way for the current talent on board, saying, enough's enough. We need to kind of go back to the way we were. But let me kind of throw in a comment here that one that stuck out is we saw this past week on SmackDown as well. Pat McAfee was the guy that Randy Orton was talking to on the phone, and we see him give Cody Rhodes a nice swift kick in the lower regions there. And one thing that kind of stood out in Punk's promo, and sorry, I'm trying to go back to finding that, folks. Give me a little bit of leeway here.
While you're pulling it up, let me kind of talk to that a little bit. McAfee being involved kind of springboarded this WrestleMania storyline, and we're promoting across the different brands. And now we continued it with CM Punk doing his promo. And I thought it was a good way to kind of cross promote between the brands and between both championships, tying in that both championships are equal, which is something the WWE has not done in the past years. So I thought that was actually kind of a clever way to bring that about. And Punk with his promo really just added a little seasoning to the meal. And I think that's what you have for us there, right?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact comments, but pretty much what from TJR Wrestling's website, Punk went after McAfee, calling him MAGAfee. Sorry for the politicalness. I don't care for politics, even on my show. But calling him MAGAfee and blasting the former NFL star and WWE commentator for bashing the current WWE product during his promo on SmackDown. The Best in the World then went on to talk about how WrestleMania tickets are pricing out families and demanded that prices be cut. And this, Brian, this was something that was talked about on Raw Reactions with Carlos on X Space this past Monday. And I thought it was a good point made by Sean. There's this feeling that, in a way, in the infrastructure, it almost feels like there's a WWE versus TKO feel lately in the environment. And in some ways, Punk's promo, I think, provided a lot of truth to that. And, it's kind of weird because it's like, I don't think everybody was on board with the whole TKO deal. On top of it, when TKO made the deal with ESPN to carry the WWE product, I think that really set a lot of things off. And another great example to throw in the perspective, especially when you had Stephanie McMahon on her podcast advertise for a VPN company, to subscribe to a VPN company, and you could use that to, if you've got Netflix, you can bypass the ESPN and watch the WWE PLEs that way. And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh shit! And all behold, ESPN got now a little disgruntled with that. So in some ways, there's a lot of examples there that what we're seeing and what Sean said on Raw Reactions with Carlos this past Monday, I'm starting to see a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. The first of all, I want to say that CM Punk was the perfect advocate for this narrative, right? Just because of his history. What is he known as? The voice of the voiceless, right? That was his whole narrative for years. Middle-aged and crazy, right? So he is the perfect guy for this narrative. If you're going to pick a representative that's going to be great on the mic to represent the voiceless, right? Which in this case, it is the WWE fans. I've said it to you off air. I'm calling this the ruthless depression era. And if you are the fans, well, you can't afford it. We understand. We know people that will, and they don't care, right? Because we will sell out. And if we can't sell out, that's fine, because the ticket prices that we are charging for every seat that we sell, we don't have to sell 2 more seats. That's the reality, right? Because the price of 1 seat equals the price of 3 seats that we had to sell, right? Now, be that as it may, that is that ruthless depression era I was talking about. So now what the WWE's done, very clever, very, very clever. They said, we see some of the backlash of the community, of those fans. Ooh, we should put that into a story. We need a leader. We need somebody to blur the lines. Who's done that in the past? Who has been a guy that kind of piped up, so to speak, right? And who has been the guy that's been a little mouthy and kind of rebelled against companies? Well, let's use CM Punk. And just said, you know what? We want you to do this. And I'm sure Punk said, yeah, this is a great idea. And I think, just go ahead and blend in a little bit of how you feel and a little truth in there, right? So I think we're getting a little bit of blend, but I think we're also getting a little bit of structured guidance. And at the end of the day, I think WWE is going to put together some really good storytelling. And, there are fans that are going to understand that, but there are fans that are like, there's you and I that are going to sit back and say, hey, you know what? We're going to sit back and enjoy the ride and watch this story and say, this is going to be fun. This is interesting. Then there's going to be fans that are going to say, yeah, go get them for me. Right. But are we going to see those prices really lower? No. Right. They might have a coupon day. Right. So, but at the end of the day, I think it's a very, very clever way to introduce a real life issue into a storyline that people will pay attention to. And you just turned CM Punk into a hero. It's very clever. And they reminded you of Roman Reigns' connection to The Rock and The Rock's connection to the board of directors. There's a lot of interwoved spider webs in there that CM Punk did in one promo, and he's a master of words. Say what you want about him. And I know some of our guys, even in our circle, they have some very opinionated thoughts of him, how he goes about business, including yours truly sometimes, right? But, and I've been let down. I've loved him and I've been let down by him, but at the end of the day, the guy's a master of words in verbal judo. So thoughts on that, John?
Brian, there's nothing more I could really add to what you say, because it was 100% spot on. And as I mentioned, I agree with Sean wholeheartedly when he said there's this feel of WWE versus TKO, and the way to get this really rolling using CM Punk was definitely the best option to muddy the waters. Now, could they be playing us as fans, or is this real tension? Either way, this is a good way, as you said before, to put it into storyline, especially with the backlash from the IWC with the whole pricing fans out of being able to attend events. And the one thing that really just comes to my mind is WWE really, are they okay realizing they're probably taking a loss? Maybe at best, maybe breaking even with the attendance figures. I don't know. I would think at some point that's got to hurt you to the point to realize, okay, we got to do something different to get these seats full. So, one, we're at least breaking even, or two, making money. And for over the years, you hear these guys that say they don't necessarily make their money on fan attendance, which is more than likely true. The money that you make is off the merchandise at these events. And here's the real killer. If you're not getting people attending the events, that's less money you're making off merchandise too. And that's something I think they really need to go back and revisit, because you have to have some type of revenue, because you're talking having to pay wrestlers contracts, royalties to the wrestlers for merchandise. I mean, there's so much going on there. I think we need some better strategies on, one, filling up the arenas, but two, bringing it back to, well, I guess it's pretty much the same point, but getting that audience back in there, not just your casual fans, but the diehard fans that you've turned away.
Yeah, no, you're hitting a lot of great points. There's other revenue once you get there that they're missing out on, from vendors to buying a hot dog, right? Everything. The long-term connection too. I think we talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again. The fans, wrestling at one point was meant to be one of the cheaper forms of entertainment. And it meant that a lot of people could go there and they could take their family there and they could just enjoy a night out. Right. And it's a blue collar sport. It's meant to be that. It's meant to be, people could go out and enjoy a night out, even if, they couldn't afford the trip to Vegas. Wrestling was really never meant to be a Vegas sport, right? It was never meant to be that. And it grew over the years, but it was meant to be a house show that came to your area, right? And then all of a sudden, well, now it's going to come to the bigger city that's 40 minutes down the road. You know what? Hey, kids, you like that, right? Well, why don't we go down to the bigger city? Why don't we go check it out for the bigger event? So, and they got rid of those house shows over the years, in the last few years, right? Which unfortunately got rid of the closer connections. Those house shows is where they're more personable. And if you guys have ever attended one that are listening to us right now, they're not as in the door, out the door, move, and you're just watching the show like a bigger pay-per-view. There is a little more interaction typically, and a little more kind of hanging around, high fives, and the lights and cameras aren't on, so they don't have to act as much, right? So at least that's been my experience. And you too, I imagine, John, right? Did you?
Well, yeah, and Carlos actually brought that point up.
Yeah,
in his Raw reactions.
Okay.
Carlos Space the other night is, he has a hard time going to any WWE event now because, if you're not having these guys out doing live shows and working on their craft and trying different things to keep the audience engaged, you're really just creating trash product. And I think that might have been a little harsh the way he put it out there, but I agree with the message he's sending out.
Yeah. To me, it's more about the connection piece. It's the build relationships with people, and those relationships will produce. I guarantee you, anybody that started as a wrestling fan most likely started as a kid, and they built and grew into that relationship. I don't know too many people that picked it up as a middle-aged adult. It's something you just end up, it's in everything. It's in comic books. It's in video games. Like, most people pick up things in their childhood and they continue them. So I see that. And I've heard wrestlers talk about that, literally wrestlers. I've heard Steve Richards talk about that. I've heard guys say you have to make that connection, and then you have to maintain that relationship a little bit as you go through. And I think that's such a vital part that WWE is not doing as much. And I see that we talked off air last week after the show on Wrestling Fans Inside After Dark. We basically talked about, we got in depth about these ticket prices of meet and greets. And we talked for WrestleMania, and we talked about Cody Rhodes' $10,000 bus tour for one ticket to just tour his bus and go on a little ride around and look at a couple locations in Las Vegas. It's gotten so crazy. And it's like the companies are now buying these tickets, right? And then I seen an advertisement for an attorney that was just bought tickets, and they're just going to give them to some clients, right? And, for a law firm, right? And okay, so you're just going to give these away as corporate business gifts now. And it's kind of becoming, okay, buy some tickets. It's a tax write-off for me, and I'm just going to use it as a business gift. And, you're sitting there, how hard is that person cheering? I'll be interested to see how loud WrestleMania gets, and this year. And especially it's a repeat market. So we're back-to-back repeat markets. I'm going to be interested to see how loud it is there this year without piped-in noise, because the people that win, I believe, probably went last year. Are you going to go back to the same market 2 years in a row, or did you get what you needed last year? So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the difference also is in the attendance figures too, because they always love to announce that we hit an all-time high. I kind of almost want to say, is this going to be an all-time low, or we're just slightly lower than last year?
Guys, we bombed it this year. Let's say we hit 300. Oh wait, get that hot dog vendor in here. Did he go out for a smoke break? Get him in here.
Yeah, you notice that big change in the last couple of years is they're not announcing attendance records anymore.
They used to announce those, and I was told that it also included
employees and everything.
It included employees that work the events, because I told it was everybody in the building, right? And I guess this was a thing now. There's a difference. Somebody told me this between attendance and tickets distributed.
Yes.
That blew my mind. I was like, so they're counting tickets sold versus...
Yeah, like how the hell did you get your number when you only had this many tickets available?
Yeah, and so they had tickets sold and distributed versus people that walked through the gate. So there's people that maybe they gave away tickets or donated them, but they didn't show up because they were just donated, right? And I was like, but they can still say sold out. And I'm like, wow. and that's just a new thing for me. I'm like, you could literally give tickets away and say distributed, and then say, we're sold out, guys. We sold out again. And I'm like, that is the devil. So
is that including the hard camera side, by the way? Oh,
yeah. Well, that now makes sense though, because that's why we see some empty spaces in certain areas, but they say they're sold out. No, those pictures show up online. That makes sense.
Yeah, you notice that stopped right away once WWE started pricing people out now.
Yeah, and
there's no more of that comparison
those pictures
anymore.
Sold out. They say sold out, and they show pictures online of empty parts of the arena. And I'm like, well, that's what happened. Now it makes sense to me. They distributed tickets, which does cause a sellout because we had no more available. Okay. It's a play on words.
And, this is where I think Tony Khan doesn't get quite the credit for moving his shows to the smaller venues. At least he's not taking that hard of a loss now going to those smaller venues compared to WWE, who's still going to these bigger venues, but only using half the state, half the center or arena or whatever they're at.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, you just wasted money there. Why do that to yourself?
Yeah. Well, it's curious too, just still in WWE land. Do you think NXT shows stay pretty crowded? I know we just had one over the weekend. Do you think that was a pretty sold out show?
For the most part, I believe it was. And if I remember right, are there normal syndication on Tuesdays, are those tickets free still, or
I
do
would have to
fans
look.
actually pay to get in the?
I would have to look, honestly.
Okay, I thought maybe because you're, 1/1,000,000th of a owner in the WWE there with your shareholding.
They don't even go over that on those calls. Yeah. All they do is brag about money they made. They say, "Oh, we're so rich, you guys."
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing
Sorry.
so well, and Netflix just gave us all this money, and
Uh,
and we're going to do this John Cena retirement tour, and that's going to rake in this much. That's
sorry,
really,
I just had to be a smart ass there,
yeah,
but
no, that's what really goes on those things.
oh, terrible. But anyways, no, this was a fun conversation here, but
Yeah,
we definitely got a little bit more to start getting into. But uh, no, thanks for your views on everything we just discussed here. Before we get started, though, let's go ahead and kind of give some throwouts there. Both of us are on the X app. You can follow me, John, at WFI Pod, which is my main account, or you can follow the network account for the fans of pro wrestling, FOPW Network. Um, Also, you can follow Brian on there. Brian?
yep. At the Brian Adkins. That's the only one. I don't have burner accounts like John or Carlos. He's got like 20.
Yeah, here we go. Anyways,
There they are. Oh no, that's the other burner account.
Yeah, mine's pretty obvious. I think Carlos is pretty obvious, but also check out and participate in our X community for the fans of pro wrestling. You can look at the FOPW network on X or even on the WFI pod. It is spotlighted on both of those profile pages. And also, as we mentioned, Carlos has X Space conversations every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays shortly after WWE Monday Night Raw, and he has Wednesday Night Chaos on Wednesday shortly after AEW Dynamite. And be sure to follow Brian's YouTube channel, Tap Out Talk. Just go to YouTube and do the at Tap Out Talk. You'll find it there. And he does some pretty good presentations there. Also, we have a group chat on the X for the fans of pro wrestling. Just get with me, Carlos, or Brian in our DMs on asking how to join. So, Brian, as normally for the road to WrestleMania in previous years, NXT was a part of that, but not so much anymore. It's now kind of gone in a little different direction where they're airing it before the week of WrestleMania, which is awesome. NXT has their Stand and Deliver event, and that just happened this past weekend, actually. I accidentally moved the starting match, so I apologize, folks. I'm just getting it up now. But let's go ahead and go through the results here on the NXT Stand and Deliver pre-show. It was a 10-person mixed tag, actually. The team of Hank and Tank, Shiloh Hill, EK Prosper, formerly Eli Knight, and Rin Sinclair defeating the team of Birthright. We also had for the NXT Women's Championship, Lola Vice defeating the champion JC Jane and Kendall Gray in a triple threat there. That was a pretty great match there to start off the main card. For the NXT Tag Team Championships, the Vanity Project managed to successfully defend against Los Americanos. Sol Ruka gets a victory over her former tag team partner, Zarya. The NXT North American Championship, Miles Bourne retains over Johnny Gargano. We also had the NXT Women's North American Championship. That was stolen by Blake Monroe, but Tatum Paxley was the champion, and she managed to successfully defend that against Blake Monroe. And in the main event, which was a fatal four-way for the NXT Championship, Tony Angelo becomes the new NXT champion, defeating former champion Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and All Ego Ethan Page. This was quite the card, Brian, and I'm gonna kind of highlight the results again here and there. So, but Going through these results, any interesting thoughts come to mind?
Yeah, there's a few more just on a few of the people involved. So on the Lola Vice one, I'm a big Lola Vice, I'll say Mark. There's a lot I like about her. I like her Miami Grand Theft Auto beat 'em down style. There's something about this. I like her. I like how they do the underground matches with her too. I think it makes her unique. Vanity Project, real quick. Swipe Right. So they, I believe, might have went by Swipe Right in WWE Evolve, and so because in my results I had it as Vanity Swipe Right defeating Los Americanos. So I think they may have had a name change. So it's interesting. So Swipe Right is a tag team, or Vanity Project looks like they're going by. They are going to be kind of a modern day generation tag team that's going to be looking to kind of connect with a younger audience. So that is going to be a group. I do like their tag team style. They do kind of an annoying heel thing like this in their matches. At least they were when they were in Evolve, and they're like swipe right.
You know what it kind of reminds me in some way.
Yeah,
and it's not an insult to them. The Fabulous Rougeaus.
Oh yeah, I can see
the
that.
preppy looks.
Blake and Bo. Yep.
No,
So,
this was Raymond and Jock.
Oh, I thought their name was Blake and Bo because they were
that was the Beverly Brothers.
Beverly Brothers. Thank you. I was thinking of them. The what was the Minnesota Destruction Crew? Those guys. Yeah.
But that's actually another good team to compare it to.
Yeah, that's where my brain went. Yeah, good call. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. But I don't know. They caught my attention in WWE Evolve, and I was like, this is going to be not my era, but a good demographic for the younger demographic. And anytime we have tag teams that look like real tag teams, I'm bought in. So I'm a fan of tag teams being tag teams. And then I'm also a Sol Ruka mark. I just think she's, the cat's meow. And then also Blake Monroe, for me, I liked her better in AEW. I just did. I just think that she has not caught on as much in AEW or in NXT.
If you don't mind me interrupting you a little bit on that, we've always talked about on this show that in this business, sorry, Nasty Leroy, in this business industry, there's the pro wrestling element and the sports entertainment element.
Yeah.
You always have to have kind of both ingredients to make the product.
Yeah.
But sometimes some people like the flavor rich, some don't like it as rich. And I think Blake Monroe, when she was Mariah May, I think she definitely fits more of the rich tasting pro wrestling element than the sports entertainment. And to your point, Brian, I definitely felt she was much better in AEW than she was in WWE. And I don't know if some of that was hurt due to, a botch finish against Thea Hale when it came to the Women's North American Championship. I hope that wasn't the case, but I kind of feel like ever since that's what's kind of took her stock down a little bit in WWE. Or I think she just needs to revamp and do something different, because the glamour gimmick I don't think is going to get over very well, especially if she decides to go main roster, especially when you have the likes of Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair. You got the Bella twins who have now reunited and are trying to make a run for the NXT, or not the NXT, but the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. It's really going to be hard to pull that gimmick off, especially when you got similar lookalikes on the main roster as is.
Yeah, and kind of add on there. I think the issue for me is, in AEW, she was the result of a very good, powerful storyline. And I guess it just kind of showed me, I didn't realize at the time how good Toni Storm was at getting her over. And it was so powerful that it created a whole nother character. And it created a whole new wrestler that highlighted her. And when she went to NXT, she lost her character name. She lost her identity. And to a point, I was like, is that the same person? Because it doesn't even look like the same. And I've seen people change their name when they went to NXT. Kevin Steen became Kevin Owens. But you know what? He didn't change his identity. He was still himself. But I've never seen such a harsh change where she lost her complete identity and she looked like a ghost of her former self. And it's so weird to me because I've never seen somebody change that much when they flipped over. And so Blake Monroe, it's just weird to me. And it's just somebody I've really liked in AEW a lot. And I actually thought was a top tier talent, but I'm not into it anymore. It's really weird. So I'm not rooting against her, but I'm begging for, some excitement. So
Yeah. And, we've seen this happen with talent before, not necessarily coming because there was no NXT at the, sorry, I'm losing my voice. There was no NXT at this time, but let's look at another character who had to go through that. Someone by the name of Kane that many people come to have known over the years. He started out there as the fake Diesel and then went to Dr. Isaac Yankem. Might have been, I can't remember which one was first or the other, but
yeah,
either way, he had two horrible gimmicks. And then when they rebounded with The Undertaker's lost brother, they brought on King, and look what happened. He became a big impact into not just the storyline with the Undertaker, but his career skyrocketed with that gimmick.
Yeah. And actually, to your point right there, you just made it a good point. Undertaker was good enough to get over a whole new character and a whole new gimmick and create a whole new career out of him. Kind of what Toni Storm did for Blake Monroe back in AEW, so it was like almost like, yeah, Undertaker was that good that he could make it work for somebody that didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but they needed that booster, right? And somebody to kind of bring them along. So yeah, it's a very good point.
And to kind of finish my thought on that, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but to kind of finish my thought on that, where she's at in NXT, this is the right part in the company to hopefully figure something out and get it to where fans are more engaged with it. Look what happened with Obafemi. Just as you talked off air beforehand, big hit the minute he came to the main roster because everybody knew who he was. His gimmick hit the fans and kept them engaged. And, putting him up with Brock Lesnar right now is probably been one of the best things that's happened.
Yeah. And, and Brock is actually into helping him. I can tell by the way he's doing things. The very first time when he pointed at the sign, you could tell, he put Brock down, and you could tell that Brock kind of reminded him like, hey, put your foot on my chest, like you could tell those little things. And I was like, oh, Brock's into this. And I know there was reports that, Brock's against it. And I'm like, I don't think that's the truth.
No,
Brock's not going to do anything that Brock doesn't want to do.
Not only that, why would they be on TV still doing it?
Right. And I was like, no, Brock's doing the little things. I think Brock's on board with all of this. And I think Brock is doing those little things to help. And to the point, so I agree with you. And then the other thing was the main event, if we're ready to kind of touch on that. Tony D'Angelo beating Ethan Page and Ricky Saints and Joe Hendry. They're very big on him. Shout out to my friend, Dr. Chris Featherstone. He he told me a long time ago, who's a writer for, a lot of different outlets. He told me a long time ago that they're very big on Tony D'Angelo. And that was back when he was, Sleep with the Fishes and all that. And I kind of went, really? I kind of I think I told you guys that. And I said, no, I'm hearing they're very big on him. And well, here I am about a year later, and they're pushing Tony D'Angelo, and they repackaged him. And we're starting to see, and I'm like, oh, they now want to see him in a different light with a different kind of, look and gimmick. And I'm starting to see it. And it's interesting because I think back to that conversation I had with Chris, and I'm like, dang, you're right. They did like him, not that I doubted it, but sometimes it's hard to see a gimmick that they give a guy. And then, and sometimes you get in your own way when you just see a gimmick, right? And I fall to it as well, right? I mean, I think we all fell for dancing Becky Lynch back in the day, Becky Green Shoes, right? And
yeah.
And so that happened with me. I kind of heard it and I went, oh, well, we'll see. And I'm like, that's what I'm hearing. But man, now I'm like, they are really treating him like a champion. And the fact that he beat Ethan Page, Joe Hendry, and Ricky Saints, I mean, that's 3 guys that we all kind of consider, kind of a top tier of NXT. And I'm like, they're taking them serious. So it was interesting when I seen that result. I was like, okay, that's, a nice little 4-way that they did. And he beat them all. So,
well, and look, ever since he's come back, he's gone after and hunted down Dark State, and he's taken them out one by one, and in a very dominant fashion too.
Yeah.
And then to come in and, like you said, to get a victory over, talent like Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and All Ego Ethan Page. I mean, who would have thunk that he could have pulled that off, but he did. And right now, I know I said earlier this year I would love to see Obafemi still stick it out another year or two here in NXT and still dominate. But with him moving the main roster, I think this was the right choice, was to put Tony D'Angelo in that spot, because I couldn't see Joe Hendry being a long-term NXT champion.
Yeah.
Especially ever since kind of, in a way, transitioning from TNA to WWE.
Yeah.
Him being the first star to go into the WrestleMania card up against Randy Orton last year. The funny thing was watching that match, and I still can't get it out of my head, to see the size difference between Randy Orton and Joe Hendry. And
yeah,
Joe Hendry's not a small guy. I mean, that just shows you how jacked Randy Orton is. And damn,
no, Randy, it was really big. And I was like, wow, we're in the big leagues now.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh shit, who's this midget facing Randy Orton? And not trying to take away anything from Joe Hendry fans. It's just, it was just one of those things where Brian and I've been watching so long, and you can see something like that right off the bat.
Hey, now a vanilla midget won. A vanilla midget highlighted WrestleMania 30 and won. So don't knock those vanilla midgets. So, hey, question about Tony D'Angelo. I want your take. What do you think his ceiling is? Because I need like a fresh perspective from somebody that doesn't know what they think of him. Like, what do you think his fresh perspective, like, what do you think his ceiling really is just as a talent? Where does he go? What's his max? Could he be world champion someday?
I can't really say if he'll be world champion, but I say still get another year or two with NXT. I would like to see him be a very long reigning world champion for them.
Okay.
However, at some point you can't always win every match, and you can't always keep the championship. But much like I said earlier, where I said I would like to see Oba stay in NXT, I think right now, with how loaded the main roster is, I think he needs to pretty much show that NXT is his yard. And once there's nothing really to prove, then let's look at moving him up. I've always been a fan of kind of watching the old school way, let's take, for example, like the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart started his tag team, went on to win tag team championship twice with Jim and Bill Neidhart, then goes on to win the Intercontinental Championship, and then moves on to win the World Heavyweight Championship. In some ways, Tony's went that direction with NXT. I would like to see him get that slow build to the top in the main roster. And I will say this. I think the sky is the limit for this guy. I think if he stays healthy, injury-free, there's going to be a lot more to go on for Tony D'Angelo than anybody realizes.
Yeah. And the one thing I was just sitting there, because I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of his look and his talking and all that. I think about when we did the Layla interview a year ago, and I remember her saying to us, "Stay on the right side of the politics. It'll help any." She said, remember we asked for advice on any young talent. I said, "What's the advice you'd give any young talent?" She said, "Stay on the right side of politics." She said, "It'll help your career more." And it feels to me like he's on the right side of all that. And they like him. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, man, I feel like these doors are open for him and they're rooting for him. And man, does he have the look? Are they going to want to get behind him on the main roster? NXT is a different beast, but when you go to the main roster, I mean, people sometimes don't care about you, because it's a wide audience,
And in fairness to the history of talent moving on from NXT to the main roster, I think some of it is they rushed some of that talent up there when they didn't quite need them yet. And I think that's hurt a lot of careers. I mean, look what happened with Big Cass and Enzo Amore. I think they could have went way more than where they ended. Look what happened with Dabba-Kato.
Yeah.
That was like a cup of coffee, like literal cup of coffee.
I'll give you a name that I feel they rushed too quick. She failed, and then she left and came back and ended up there, was Nia Jax. They rushed her. She kind of crashed out, left WWE, and then came back, and now she's, maintaining. But when they ran her up there, I was like, ooh, that's quick. And it didn't pan out. And she had good connections. She's in the Samoan family. I mean, it's,
Well, and where you mentioned being on the right side of politics, sometimes the politics can be wrong too. And I think that's what happened is, I'm not saying that's on any fault of Nia, because honestly, when she first debuted in NXT, I was amazed by her. I was amazed by her look, how she could work in the ring. Yeah. She gets a lot of flack from people who are keyboard warriors and who've never been inside a ring before, that have no idea what they're talking about. But I think where she's at now, it's a world of improvement. And with teaming her up with Lash Legend right now, I think that was one of the best moves that has made with her.
I heard it somewhere. I don't remember. I think it was on a show, and they said that Vince used to call her the Andre the Giant of the women's division, because they said he used to say things like that. And I was like, I kind of see that. Like, you're the Andre the Giant of the women's division. And I was like, yeah. I mean, she's
the attraction.
Yeah. And I was like, I get that billing, that idea. And I see that. And they all can't just be looking the same. And she has a great look. It's a unique look, and it can blend with a lot of different styles. Like, she's never going to get cut for, we already have too many people that look too similar and you don't stand out, and your style's just same as everybody else's, and your wrestling style's the same. Like, I've always liked her work, and I was like, yeah, no, she fits, and she has no risk of being cut unless, for other reasons. But cool, man.
All right. Well, kind of want to throw out a couple more thoughts there. Like you mentioned, I love seeing Lola Vice win that NXT Women's Championship. Very well earned. JC Jane, who really did a lot to validate that NXT Women's Championship. Love her or hate her, you have to admit she put in the work. Not only that, to become double champ, not just the NXT Women's Champion, but also for that short time holding the TNA Knockouts Championship. I mean, that says a lot of wonders when you're holding the top prize in two different promotions. I think JC Jane, hoping to see her in the main roster soon. I think just like I mentioned with Tony D'Angelo, the sky's the limit for her. She keeps working on her craft the way she's been doing. She's gonna definitely be a name that not many people are ever gonna forget. As far as the Sol Ruca Azaria, I thought the match could have definitely been a little better, but I love the way they're telling their story as far as, being former best friends. I would love to see them continue on a couple more matches and then definitely see Zarya hold her own while Sol makes her way to the main roster as well. Vanity Project, I just cannot get behind the gimmick. Again, all I can keep seeing in my eyes is Fabulous Rougeaus. Unfortunately, Fabulous Rougeaus, who were never tag team champions in the WWF then. At least the Vanity Project are getting the gold. I don't know. It may be one of those things where it takes a little time for me to kind of get behind because Cora Jade, who I had a hard time sometimes watching, I became a big fan of hers. For those who don't know who I'm talking about, she's now Lena Black there in the TNA. I see a lot of great things coming out of Kendall Gray. She will definitely be a future women's champion. Unfortunately, she was just short from Stand and Deliver. As far as the Miles Bourne and Johnny Gargano match, I thought it was a great match overall. We had, God damn it, I keep forgetting his name. The guy from Dark State. I really hate it when I do this too. Miles Bourne, I think, is going to do well holding the North American Championship, but I'm not sure if we'll ever quite see him hold the NXT Championship. And it's going to bug me if I don't find this guy's name because it's driving me nuts.
Yeah. While you're looking for that, Miles Bourne, I think that's the Stephanie Vaquer's boyfriend, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Isn't that the Randy Orton look-alike? That's what I think people always think he is. Everybody's like, oh, it's Randy Orton look-alike, a.k.a. Randy Jr.
Yes. In fact, it was funny because I think there was someone comparing him to Randy Orton. Says, of course I'm not Randy Orton, I'm deaf. And it's like, oh dear. Oh, Dion Lennox, that's who it was. Sorry, folks. I'm having brain farts. It's hard to keep up with everything lately, but Dion Lennox comes in to attack Miles Bourne shortly after the match, and I think Dion Lennox is going to definitely go places, but we definitely saw after the programming that you see some conflicts going on with Dark State right now. They weren't. There was a little bit of tension there with Dion Lennox attacking Miles Bourne on his own and trying to claim all the glory on it. So Dark State, in fairness to them, they just want to be everything together, not just one person for themselves, but as a family. And there's a lot of validity to that. So now it's going to be an interesting thing to see. Is Dark State going to start breaking up here, or are they going to eventually all get on the same page and kind of like Undisputed Era did for a little bit there and reunite? Who knows? Keep tuned to that story. But yeah, as far as overall, I give a thumbs up to the Stand and Deliver if you haven't watched it. And by the way, if you don't know how to go watch it, it's on YouTube, folks. It's part of WWE's YouTube channel, so just be sure to go check it out. Whew, that was a mouthful. But Brian, now that Stand and Deliver is out of the way, and we got WrestleMania coming up, but we're going to talk about that on next week's episode. We've now got AEW, who's now going to be doing their Dynasty pay-per-view. And unfortunately, we don't have all the matches. I've been trying to keep my browser refreshed to see if anything new comes up. So far, nothing yet has come up new. But right now, we've got 6 matches in the works. And we're going to present them here. And Will, who's not with us, due to the fact he's got to work at nights usually. So, Will's given me his predictions of what's been posted so far. Again, AEW Dynasty will be this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, keep in mind, 8 p.m. Eastern Time is the main pay-per-view card. 0 Hour, which will usually air about an hour before the main card starts. I believe you can check that out on Amazon. Hopefully, it'll work on HBO Max this time. I know the last pay-per-view, the 0 Hour, was not working there, which was frustrating because it was advertised to be working on there. I also believe you should be able to see it on Triller, or and I can't remember one other. I want to say it was Dazen. Be sure to check out where it may be in your local areas. So, but anyways, Brian, in the 0 Hour, so far one match announced. Alex Windsor is going to take on Marina Shafir. Marina Shafir, who is part of the Death Riders group. Alex Windsor, who's tag team partners with Jamie Hayter with the Brawling Birds. This is going to be an all-out knockout match right here. But I think this is going to be the one time Marina Shafir is going to get a victory here. What's your thoughts?
I'm with you. I think Marina Shafir stays strong. And I think, she does get the win here. So I think it's pretty straightforward for me on that prediction. Yeah.
And Williams also going with Marina Shafir. So far a sweep on the pick for this one. Marina Shafir, who I felt has gotten a little bit better since joining the Death Riders. I think she found her way going with John Moxley, Claudio, Pac, Yuta, and now Daniel Garcia, who's a part of the group. I think we're starting to see a little more of her personality come through. But going into the main card, we got a few things going on here. In a grudge match where it will be Andrade El Idolo taking on Darby Allin. Now, there's a stipulation in this match. If Darby Allin wins this match, MJF will grant him an AEW World Title match. William is going all in on Darby Allin. Brian, what's your pick?
All right. And the reason you're getting a nice, long, awkward pause from me, I hate stipulations like this because they just ruin the main event. Come on, guys. You literally just ruined the main event of your pay-per-view. Come on, do better. What? Like, you can't write. Okay, sorry. Like, write that in.
Need the hug, by the way.
That MJF or Kenny Omega, make Tony Khan will grant a title match to the winner. Number 1 contender. Remember those rules? Easy enough. All right.
Now, in fairness, though, last week we saw a clip where, just shortly after, I think it was a promo, Kenny Omega came side by side with Darby Allin and pretty much whispered something to him. And we find out later in the program that if Kenny Omega wins and Darby Allin wins, Kenny Omega will still honor Darby Allin getting a world title match.
Well, at least we got a rewrite there.
Yeah,
You
so
just all right.
I knew you were gonna be right on top of that, like because I know that's one of your biggest pet peeves.
It's one of my big pet peeves. I'm like, lazy booking. You know, come on. Like, all right.
Yeah,
Let me give the prediction. Let me get off my soapbox. So I am going to go with Darby as well. It does not state that it'll be at the next pay-per-view, right? It could be on Dynamite and it could be anywhere, right?
that's the thing is we don't know when that match will take
Yeah,
place.
it could be Battle of the Belts. I
Yeah,
mean, it could be. So I think there's always a nice opportunity to have contenders in the pipeline. And Darby Allin is always nice to have as a contender in the pipeline. So I'll go with Darby Allin.
that's the one thing I have not seen from AEW lately is Battle of the Belts.
Yeah.
It's pretty much similar to their Clash of the Champions from the good old WCW days. I wouldn't mind seeing that come back. But hear that, Tony Khan, bring it back.
I liked it. Ironically, I don't think they ever had the world championship on there.
No, and that's you're talking for Battle of the Belts, right?
Yeah, for Battle of the Belts. They always did
Yeah,
the other titles.
I don't think I've seen the world championship defended on it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'll have to go back and check.
And I covered most of them on my channel, and it was one of my gripes. I was like, come on, Battle of the Belts. That world title should always be featured.
Right. If you're going to create a special program showcasing your champions, have the biggest champion for your company on that.
Yeah, and bragging with that title, right? So
yeah, that would be like having a WWF Saturday Night's main event without the WWF World Championship on the line,
Yeah, and the champ should be there, and even if it's taking on jobbers, right? And flexing and taking on three jobbers enhancement talents. And I gotta be politically correct in the modern era. Sorry, guys.
Dustin Rhodes is coming for your ass.
Yeah, we gotta be sensitive now. So but at the end of the day, gotta showcase that belt. But yes, is everybody going with Darby? I know you said Will was. Are you?
I kind of almost want to be the rebel and say I'm going with Andrade just because I know how well they've been booking him lately. But I think Darby Allin is finally going to get his due since, John Moxley defeated Darby Allin for his world championship opportunity I think it was a year and a half ago. But yeah, I think Darby Allin's going to finally get his redemption on that. So I'm going Darby Allin, another clean sweep there on the picks. But let's move on to the AEW. This originally was not supposed to be a championship match. It was going to be a grudge match, as Will and I discussed last week. But now, or actually a week and a half ago, depending on when you watch this, but more likely 2 weeks ago, this was not scheduled to be a championship match between John Moxley and Will Ospreay, but Will Ospreay put the challenge out there and say, let's raise the stakes because he wants this to be a one-on-one match. And the only way to make it a one-on-one match, because nobody can be ringside during any Continental Championship match. So that is the one beauty of the Continental Championship. It should not have any kind of interference in any way. So for the AEW Continental Championship, John Moxley will be defending his championship against Will Ospreay. This is going to be interesting because Will Ospreay is looking for revenge from a personal attack that put him out of action for quite some time with his broken neck. And that was all due to John Moxley. It's gotten personal. John Moxley's telling Will Ospreay, don't make this personal, but Will Ospreay's right. John Moxley already did make a personal with that. So it's an interesting way to look at, kind of as Ted the Hillbilly Hill would say, there's the real truth and then there's the Hill truth. And this is kind of the similar logic. As far as who's going to win, I'm going to go with Will Ospreay defeating John Moxley for the championship. Will has definitely picked Will Ospreay winning this championship. Brian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of split on it. I am going to go Will Ospreay as well. I actually thought we would be a little split on this one. I can make arguments for both guys. I think ultimately my pick is going to be based on momentum. And I think coming back, I think the momentum factor is going to kick in for Ospreay. So I think it just makes a little sense for him to come back and get some momentum. And he is an energetic champion. And I think he's going to put a lot of energy into that Continental Championship. And I think right now, I think that's something that he would benefit more from having that title than Jon Moxley. So.
And I will say, if that does happen, this will be champion number 4 for that particular championship. This is a championship that has, ever since its induction, has not changed hands very often.
No.
So, and I believe this championship is now 3 or 4 years old. So this is a pretty prestigious championship for AEW, and this is one to definitely watch. If you're just beginning to watch AEW, I definitely suggest keeping your eyes on this one. Moving on, the AEW Women's World Championship was just announced last week, I believe. Jamie Hayter made the challenge out to Tekla, and she made a strong case. I have defeated you before, and now that you have that little shiny thing around your waist, I want that again. So for the AEW Women's World Championship, Tekla is going to defend against former champion Jamie Hayter. And William has went with Tekla, successfully retaining this. Brian?
So I think you hit it right. I think Tekla is going to retain. I think it just makes more sense. So I'm going to be a hater.
I see what you did there.
Right.
As Carlos would say, bad monkey. But yeah, I just think right now, as much as I love Jamie Hayter and love her style, I just don't think she has that momentum quite yet to put that championship back on her. And Tekla, who's been proving herself since joining the company, I think right now the biggest thing is keep that title very valid and prestigious. I think keeping it on Tekla makes sense just because her and the Sisters of Sin are starting to make their presence. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. We're going to go on to the next one for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. FTR will be defending against the returning Christian Cage and Cope. Brian, let's get your thoughts.
I think I'm going to say Edge and Christian. I can't get on with this Cope stuff. Edge and Christian, I think it's long overdue that they have a World Tag Team Championship run. It's about time, and I think it's going to be a fun year to watch them with tag titles again. Plus, I think they're going to get a little revenge for Edge's wife, and I think she shows up on the pay-per-view.
Do you think she'll make the big difference maker in this match?
I think she'll help them win.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm a little bonus pick there, but.
So do we call her Beth Cope or Cope Beth?
I was going to say, yeah, we have to come up with a fun name for her, don't we? I was going to say, I don't know. Is Beth Phoenix a trademark property of WWE?
Yeah. I don't know.
That was part of that era where I don't know if it was copyrighted there or not.
I don't know if they trademarked her name. I'm sure they did, but
no.
Either way, she can still go by Beth either way.
Yeah.
William is definitely going with new tag team championship champions in this match. He's thinking Christian Cage and Cope will get it. I'm also agreeing with him, mainly because we know the whole reason why Cope or Edge has decided to join AEW, and that was because, his daughter said, I would like to see you team up with Uncle Christian to go get those World Tag Team Championships one last time. So that would make sense. And so far, last but not least, unless I see something pop up on my browser here, the AEW World Championship.
There are a couple matches I see too. Just FYI, I'll circle back around if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and go over the AEW World Championship. MJF will be defending against Kenny Omega. I think this one's going to be pretty clear based off the stipulation we talked about, your favorite thing ever. I think MJF ends up retaining. Williams thinking the same thing. He's going with MJF. Brian, do you see any reason Kenny Omega wins this?
No. So I think it'll be a great match. I do, and I'll let you guys know that stipulation didn't change my mind. I was going to pick MJF. I think 2026 is the year of MJF. I think, he's doing some of his best work. I think Kenny Omega is just going to be another great opponent in his reign. And we're getting, remember the year that we should have had with MJF before the injury?
Yeah.
I said that he should have just went on this mega run of the bidding war of 2024 that we never got. I said, we're getting that now with MJF. And so that's what's happening right now. I truly believe that. And so I don't see him losing this belt anytime soon. I hate that they threw a stipulation right in our face that didn't allow me to suspend my disbelief. So, yeah. Do you want me to mention these other matches I see that popped up here?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so looks like we have a tag team match that also joined the fray here. It's the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, versus the Don Callis family, Okada and Takeshita. So that looks like it's going to be hard. So any thoughts on what that's going to shake out to be?
Oh, yeah. I mean, already based on, the hate relationship between Takeshita and Okada, I can't not see this team getting along and being on the same page. I think very easily the Bucks win this match.
Yeah, and I'm exactly 100% on board with you. I think the Young Bucks take the win pretty easily. I think it's imploding, right?
Right.
And we're going to get Okada, Takeshita at some point. I don't know when Forbidden Door's coming, but I feel like that could be a match for that kind of a pay-per-view. And then it also looks like we're going to give me a set. Okay, another one just popped up. So we're going to get a couple more.
Nice.
So we're going to get Tommaso Ciampa versus a Casino Gauntlet match for the AEW TNT Championship. So it's to be announced.
So for those of you who haven't been watching and trying to figure out what's going on with that, Kyle Fletcher is injured and he's not going to be able to get back on in time to defend that championship. So I'm not sure, and pardon our ignorance, I haven't been able to watch Dynamite as we're recording this during Dynamite. But I'm going to assume it's because they vacated that TNT championship, and Tommaso Ciampa is obviously first in line to get in that gauntlet, is probably what Brian's getting to. So don't kill the messenger or kill us here, as we're just finding these out right now. So as soon as I go back and watch Dynamite, I'm going to actually know what's going on. So if I sound like I'm talking out my butt, forgive me. But no, that's more than likely the case. I know Kyle is injured, so we hope he's able to get well soon, and whatever, if he needs surgery, then hopefully everything goes well for him.
And the gauntlets are hard to predict who's going to be the opponent for that. So
right, especially when we just had one not too long ago for the AEW National Championship, which Jack Perry won that.
Well, and okay, I was going to throw Jack Perry out there as a opponent, maybe, but again, I guess that's my default answer. Whenever I don't have an answer, I'm like Jack Perry. So he's kind of the guy that you throw in if you don't have plans for. So,
right.
Do you want to throw a name out there for yourself?
I think right now only two names come to mind for that championship. One definitely being Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa is one. Another solid one to probably look at maybe sell it too if they decide to book him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Sammy Guevara come back into play.
Ooh, that'd be a good
Which
one.
I doubt that's going to happen.
Yep.
But let's also not forget former TNT champion that had it before Ciampa was Mark Briscoe.
Okay.
So you got lots of options there.
There is. Yeah, and they have it listed as Tommaso Ciampa versus all to be determined.
Yeah.
So
you just don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Hopefully, take a guess. And remember, there's also going to be a collision too coming up Saturday. So keep your eyes on that.
And the other late breaking news match. All right. Chris Jericho versus Ricochet.
No freaking way.
Yep. So that's the other late breaking news right now. So Chris Jericho versus Ricochet.
Oh, I'm rarely going to have to watch Dynamite now, but that's going to be interesting. But I have a feeling I'm going to go with Chris Jericho on this. And yeah, I'm sure Carlos is going to say, "Oh yeah, it's because he was on the Chris Jericho cruise." Yeah, I brought it up. Carlos. So go screw yourself. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I've always been a fan of Jericho's work. So, and where he's come back, and actually, believe it or not, half the Jericho cruisers were like, "Thank God," because they didn't want an all WWE cruise or something like that. But long story short, I think bringing Jericho back was actually the right move. So I think he can still do things. Just don't oversaturate us with him right now. As much as I'm a fan of Jericho, I definitely don't want to see him, dominant on the program when you're trying to get all this other talent over. So,
well, I'm glad they brought him back because now we can talk about why he came back.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the right move too. I honestly wonder if he didn't like the package that was offered by WWE.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that probably played into that too. I mean, you're seeing like we mentioned earlier in this episode, there seems to be a lot of wonky things going on there. And I don't know if it's actual real wonky or if they're just playing the fans right now.
Well, let me ask you this, John. We don't know what went into it, right? Like, did they just want to do a retirement tour? And by the way, let us beat you and lay down for all the guys.
Maybe he just didn't want to be Gunther's next victim. I don't know.
I would agree with that. Did they want, hey, we'll let you do stuff like the Jericho cruise, but we're going to need some of that money?
Yeah. And, again, sorry, Carlos, we're bringing that up. It's not a flex either, but things like that do come into play, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And he probably said, yeah, piss on you.
Yeah.
I'm doing this whether you like it or not, and you're not taking my proceeds.
Yeah. And they could say, well, we would use our machine to market it. And that could come into play, and they could say, or we don't want you doing that kind of stuff.
Well, not to mention too, it's already interesting that where Jericho signed, because Will and I made that assumption he was going to WWE based off how much the cost was that went skyrocketed up.
Okay.
I mean, Sarah and I paid, I think it was just under $1,200 a piece.
Yeah.
On the last cruise, and now for the same exact package, room, all that, we were going to be paying just under $1,700, and that's a big jump.
Yeah.
I mean, nearly $500 jump. That's for guys who make the money like I do. That's a pretty hard swing.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, well, it's only $500. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm making, rich money here.
Well, the other factor I look at, I do think it was very real for him to go over there. When I seen Seth Rollins promo on Raw, when he was inserted into a match with Gunther, I honestly believe he was meant to be Jericho's opponent, Seth Rollins, because Seth Rollins' promo was very awkward And it's like the WrestleMania plans got pulled. And he was like, well, I know it's crazy. I'm in a match with Gunther, and I know it seems kind of rushed and unplanned. And I was like, oh, that's a weird promo to have. And when I heard Seth Rollins talking like that, I said, I feel like he was just thrown out there and said, hey, we're kind of improv right now, and we're going to put a match in, and it'll still be a good match. And it made me realize I feel like Seth Rollins is the doorway into the WWE land, because he did that with Punk a few years ago at Mania. And I feel like he's now the onboarder, kind of like what the Miz is for the main roster from NXT. I feel like Seth Rollins is the onboarder for a lot of the, guys coming back into the company. And so when I seen that, it made me think of Jericho for some reason. And I think something fell out with that, but I'm glad to see Jericho back. I think, and the final thought there is, when I compare two legends that retired in the last few years, John, look how John Cena's retirement tour was handled, and look how Sting's retirement tour was handled. If you're Chris Jericho, who are you putting your trust in to handle how you're taken care of in your last couple of years?
I'm definitely putting it with AEW. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think he's looking at it and saying, look, Tony's going to give me maybe more of what I want. And, because John's didn't really go the way we all kind of was hoping. And we're going to talk about that for years, where Sting, nobody complained about Sting, the way Sting was handled. And
there was very few that complained how Sting's was done. But the funny part is, I think a talent should always choose, a well-respected talent should choose the way they go out if they're being offered that retirement tour. And there's no right or wrong answer. The only person that has the right answer is that person that's going out.
Yeah. So I don't know. These could be factors for him, but he obviously took some time off and made the choice, and I'm excited. As long as we stay away from the learning tree.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, that was rough. I was like, oh my God.
It's funny that was kind of more of a half and half deal. Some fans loved it, other fans not so much.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny for us because we mimicked it and did it and laughed at it. But to me, I want to see some cooler things. The Inner Circle, I love that aspect. I loved his work with MJF. To me, there wouldn't be MJF where he is now if it wasn't for, honestly, Jericho and CM Punk doing their work they did.
Right.
With, MJF to onboard him a little bit. So it was good.
All right, Brian. It's been an interesting episode here as we kind of covered a variety of things with, NXT, WWE, and also AEW. And, it's always a great conversation with you coming on board here, not taking anything away from William, but, you come in here and you give a really fresh perspective. This one was kind of one of those weird episodes where you and agreed almost on every single thing. Because, we always love presenting different takes, but this one was really hard to have different takes on. But maybe next week episode, when we get into the WrestleMania card, things will kind of be a little different, like I said, we've already see what the matches listed in the proper orders we saw, and we'll go through that when the time comes. But Brian, we're right here getting toward the end. We actually extended a little more than usual on this episode. Of course, there was a lot to cover, and we hope we entertained you all with some thoughts. And be sure to let us know. Don't necessarily do it in the live comments. And if you haven't noticed the several times that I've posted it on here, the show is recorded. So if you're posting live comments while you're watching this on YouTube or my X accounts, we're not going to see those comments. So, but do send us a DM, or if you're in our group chat, let us know your thoughts. or even in the comments of the post that you'll see these videos on X or on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts. If you see things different or if you agree, we'd definitely like to hear from you. But Brian, as we're getting down and winding down on this episode, let's get into our final thoughts and shout outs.
Yeah. Honestly, it's been a great episode. So thank you. I enjoyed the conversation as always, and shout out to Will, who couldn't make it with us today, but I know you're out there and listening, and I appreciated, your picks as well. We'll see how we do with WrestleMania next week and all of our predictions. And, obviously to Carlos and everybody over there at the Spaces and everybody that supports us. So thank you guys.
Again, we got lots of great wrestling coming up. As we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this is a pretty loaded month worth of wrestling here. NXT Stand and Deliver definitely did deliver. Again, if you haven't watched it, go on that YouTube, check them out. Do a search for NXT Stand and Deliver 2026. I promise you will not be disappointed with anything on that PLE event. We also got the AEW Dynasty coming up this Sunday, April 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the main card, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the 0 hour. Be sure to go check it out. Again, check your local listings or your local viewing. It could be on a number of things for the 0 hour, whether it's YouTube, Amazon, Triller, Dazen, or even on the pay-per-view channel. Sometimes I even see it on there every once in a while. But be sure to go check it out. And also check out Triller, HBO Max, Amazon for the pay-per-view. Just buy it there. Don't be stingy. Support it. Also, WrestleMania coming up the following week. It's going to be a 2-night event. Got some great action coming up. So, again, lots of things happening here in the wrestling world. This is pretty much like the WrestlePalooza of all wrestling companies combined. And for my shout outs, I will be actually attending the X Spaces for Wager Wire. We're going to be getting into some WrestleMania talks. Be sure to go check out at Wager Wire. Billy, who's going to be hosting this Saturday and Sunday, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, both nights. We're going to do our best to cover both nights. We'll do night 1, I'm sure, on Saturday, and night 2 on Sunday. I'm going to get with him on his programming a little bit so we can cover what we can. If you have some time, be sure to get in there. It's open mic night. Get your comments, opinions heard. Also want to give a shout out to our favorites again, DWE community. They always do such a great job. The Wrestle Collective. They're all over the place. YouTube, Spotify, also on Discord and X Spaces. DWE community's got a lot going on with EVP CJ, Miami the Great, Final Boss Lady. They've got YouTube, Spotify, and other channels as well, especially X Spaces. Be sure to check out their content. And a few of our other favorites that's always given us some great support. On top of the Wager Wire, the Staged Up Network, also Fan in the Van podcast, Average Joe Sports, in a pickle pod.
Pickle.
in a pickle pod, IAP Radio, as they like to be called. 1420 Sports World podcast with Brent there. Also check out Nate's Daily Wager. Also Brutally Honest Sports and Steel and Teal podcast. Woo! That's a mouthful there. I think I'm going to end up before I screw up any more names and kill somebody's name. So, anyways, again, we'll be back next week. Thank you again, Brian. I always appreciate you coming on, my friend. And we will catch you all next week. Take care, everybody.